And welcome to another edition of CSC Chat. I'm your host, Evan Rosentrader. Joining me today is none other than Chadron State's very own head track and field coach, Coach Jake Gruver, who took the job in summer of 2023. Thank you for joining us, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Now, to start off, kind of a basic question. Congratulations on your appointment to head coach. And how does it feel to transition from being a record-breaking athlete for this institution to being its head coach? How does that feel?
Really good. I'd kind of closed this chapter of my life 10 years ago, so I was trying to do this when I was here the first time, and life circumstances kind of happened. So I'd had a kid while I was here in college, and then wife ended up pregnant again. I wasn't making a whole lot of money, and I needed insurance. So I gotten away from coaching. I hopped on the railroad. I've been there for 10 years, and I'd kind of dismissed my dreams of being a coach. And when the job opened up, I threw my name in the hat, kind of let the chips fall where they may, and by God's grace, I got the job, and here I am, I guess, starting over again. It's awesome. I love it.
That's great. So what exactly made you want to transition from coaching or after running track yourself? Did you always imagine yourself being a coach as growing up and that sort of thing? Or?
You know, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. To be honest with you, really 99% of the reason I even came to Chadron was to run track, and then kind of did school on the side. I was athlete first and student second. You know, I wasn't much for school. And when Coach Bailey came in, he really it was kind of one of those enlightening eureka moments, like, hey, you know, I found something that I enjoyed doing. I loved running, and I loved competing. I loved being around sports, and in order to stay around sports, I kind of thought about coaching, and I saw the mentor that Coach Bailey was to me, and I thought that'd be a pretty neat opportunity once I was out of school. And so I needed to finish school in order to do that, and so I put the student first and the athlete second then, and I realized that was something that I may want to do the rest of my life, and Bailey gave me the opportunity once I graduated, once I was done competing, gave me that opportunity as a GA and as a assistant. And then, like I said, my life circumstances happened, and my priorities kind of had to shift my family over my career, and I had to find something that could support my family a little better. And I was still coaching rec ball and stuff like that in the meantime, but Coach Bailey was the real enlightening moment for me, where, like I said, he was a big mentor for me. I had a lot of issues. I wasn't the greatest person at the time, and Bailey kind of redirected me, got me on the right path, and the way he mentored me, I thought that's something I would like to do for other athletes, other students, young men and women. Yeah.
So getting into those, you know, your individual students, your athletes, what measures do you have in place to support individual needs and goals for each athlete while maintaining an idea of a team dynamic?
You know, I really don't have any objective measures, so to speak. I call it, so I've got standards, kind of. I call it subjectively objective. You know, everybody's different. You know, as far as supporting the athlete themselves, again, everybody's different. So I kind of, as I encounter every individual situation, we kind of handle it differently. You know, as far as like, if you want to talk like scholarship standards and stuff like that, yeah, there's some objectivity to it. Track and field, the great thing about track, you know, as opposed to football or basketball or something like that, numbers don't lie. So it's very objective as far as that goes. But to support each individual athlete, like I said, everybody's different. I've got, you know, 8 to 10 different practices a day. I've got 100 different training plans because I've got 75 different athletes, and each one needs a little individualized training plan. You know, I stay relatively broad-based in the fall, where everybody can kind of be on the same sort of plans. We have the same sort of training program, but then as the season progresses, everything gets a little more individualized. We have injuries, we have different talent levels, everything else, you know, different objectives, different measures, different goals. So there's really no truly objective measure that I've got as far as supporting each athlete. Each one is we kind of handle it on an individualized basis.
Getting in more of a tradition and history, how do you balance like this sort of historical team in Chadron State, you know, multiple, when you've had national champions, multiple RMAC champions, things of that matter. How do you balance that along with your own vision and approach for the team?
So it's tough. The RMAC's a premier conference, Division II, and honestly, I was just looking at this after indoor conference. We're dang near. I mean, we'd compete with D1 conferences. The RMAC's and insane when it comes to track and field. It used to be, it was always a premier, it's always been a premier distance conference, but it's really evolved. So that, and the RMAC coaches have all relatively stayed the same. You know, we used to, when I was here, Carney was in the conference, Carney went MIAA. One of their coaches though, Ross Fellows, he's down at UCCS, so he stayed within the RMACs, and he's kind of seen the, I guess I'd say the, more, not necessarily weaker events, but the opportunities to score points in the conference outside of the distance. And so he went power. He went sprints and jumps for him. Brad Gamble was here before. He did the same thing when he went to Mesa. He did it when he was here, actually. He saw the deficiencies within the conference were in the power events. And so he really, he focused his recruiting efforts and his training efforts on power events. And if we want to be successful at Chadron within the RMAC, our untapped talent around here is in the throws, and so I think we need to have a really good throwing program, and then again power events, the sprints, the jumps, the hurdles. So that's kind of my primary focus is where can we score points to be the most successful within the RMAC. I think throws is our greatest potential here at Chadron, and then sprints, jumps, and hurdles, and then we can steal some points in the distance as well. But again, the RMAC's it's a premier conference when it comes Division II or even Division I. I mean, you're talking Olympic caliber, world class caliber athletes in the distant events, you know, at all the different Colorado schools. I mean, it just, we're training at 3,500 feet. Those guys are training at 7,000 feet. You know, it's almost natural blood doping. It's a top tier conference when it comes to distance. And so for me, I think our focus needs to be on really developing our throws programs and our power event programs.
Getting into more specific goals for the team, what kind of goals do you have in terms of like individual success, and then also like as a team when it comes to like tournament, you know, placements and tournaments as a team, especially the RMAC tournament or RMAC meet that's coming up here soon, and even on the national scale, what kind of goals do you have? Are there any particular athletes you have in mind, or
to be totally honest with you, my major success, and I tell this with all my athletes when I've got them in for my individual meetings at the beginning of the year. Honestly, there's got to be some sort of, like, they hired me, you know, for the athletic side of things. But to be honest with you, what I tell a lot of my athletes is, I care more about how successful we are in the classroom and how successful we're going to be 30 years after college. So we've got, I want us to be successful athletically, and that component will be there. But my primary major success is, what kind of person are we? Are we good moral characters? Are we going to be good, solid contributing members of society after this? Are we going to be good alumni? Do we represent Chadron well? Do we represent ourselves well? I care more about that. We could finish last in the conference for all I care, as long as we're good people. And like I said, we're not going to finish last in the conference. There will be an athletic component to that, and we'll do well. As far as succeeding athletically within the conference, we've got a 4x1 team that ran, I think, the fastest time we've probably ever run at an opening meet. We have yet to solidify our handoffs. We've had some injuries and some bang-ups, and we've mixed around the handoffs a little bit, but we've got, those four guys could end up going to nationals. Like I said, they've run a faster time than the relay that I was on that went to nationals, way faster than we ever ran this early in the season. And we have yet to get our handoffs down. And again, Division II and RMAC has evolved where it's a much tougher conference than I was here, and Division II is much tougher than it used to be. But these guys are far more talented than we were too. So I think we can get those guys to nationals, and getting another relay team. I think they'd only be the third relay team that Chadron's ever taken to nationals. I think they've got a legitimate shot at making the national meet.
Final question. Can you share any memorable experiences or lessons learned from your journey as both an athlete and as a coach that you believe resonate with our audience members, with your team members, as they strive for success in track and field?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot, probably not too many that I want to share on camera on a professional stage anyways, but obviously my journey was slightly different than the average athletes. You know, I was a junior in college, and I had a kid, and to be honest with you, the perspective between having the kid in college and still competing and doing everything else, and then stepping away from college athletics and then coming back, I think I've got a semi-unique perspective as far as those that have been constantly involved in college athletics and constantly consumed with it. I've got that outside perspective as, you know, that whatever happens here, we could be All-Americans, we could be conference champions, and that's a cool feather in your cap. But at the end of the day, what you're doing as a student and then what you're doing as a social person, what, you know, the connections that you're making, what kind of person you are outside of college athletics is far more important than any sort of athletic success that we're going to have here. Again, like, it's a neat feather in your cap when, you know, when you're 45 years old and you're sitting at the bar talking with some buddies about, you know, the glory days of track and field or football, whatever sport it might be. It's a cool feather in the cap. But at the end of the day, how well you do as a student and what kind of person you are after this is far more important than any measure of athletic success that we're going to have here. And like I said, we're all very good athletes, and I mean, very few people get the opportunity to compete at the college level. But what happens, and so there will be some, I mean, there's going to be plenty of athletic success, don't get me wrong, but that's not near as important as who we are as a person and what we do, you know, the 30 years after this. We've got 5 years, a very finite amount of time to be a successful and a competitive, high-level caliber athlete. But after this, what happens the next 30 years after this, as we create a family, as we become contributing members of society, we have a job as we're coaching our little leagues, or we go on, you know, some of them may want to do the same thing, go on and coach, you know, higher level college athletics, whatever it may be. What happens in the next 30 years to me is far more important than anything that happens in this 5 years.
Thank you.
You bet.
People of Chadron, and in particular, and the world in general, we thank you for your viewership and encourage you to join us next time for another exciting episode of CSC Chat. Thank you.